Hello guys, welcome back. I know I'm doing another still shot, but I'm trying to concentrate because I find out I'm doing more and more and more takes. When I first started the channel, maybe I did 2 to 3 takes max, and I got what I was trying to say, and now it feels like I'm doing like 10, 12 takes. So part of that is, I'm trying to be careful of what I say. One does not wish to anger YouTube. And 2, it's when I didn't have any viewers, I just talked about whatever. I really didn't think about what the topic was, and now as you gain more viewers, it's kind of odd because you start to put yourself in a place where you're thinking, well, I don't know how many people want to hear about this, I don't know if I can cover this subject, and then you end up never getting work done for days or weeks. So what I've been doing lately is working with Loki, but Loki is doing it in a way where he is around, but he's in the background, because he's having me work with Harvey now, and turns out there's 2 of them, and that's a long story. And I asked Loki, got totally frustrated, and I said, are you avoiding me? And he looked at me, and I said, first it was the Greek gods, and you had all the Greek gods here, and that was this, and then it was that, and now it's the, Pukas, and now I'm like, what's next? What's next? And he just kind of looks at me for the longest time. And he says, this is all your family. These are all beings that he didn't pick out of a hat. These are beings I've come across, in my life, whether I knew them in childhood or I met them later or whatever. And, or they noticed me and I didn't notice them. And he says, you're going to have your family with you, whether you like it or not. Because he's really big on family. He really is. And it's funny because it seems like most of the Norse gods have shifted away, even though I still honor them. And the Greek gods have shifted away. And it even feels like Losanta has backed up, and then it's just, me and Loki and Harv and his brother. And I'm like, what happened? Did the rest leave? And he's like, no, this is the relationship you have to work on right now. We know how you are. You're like a little toddler, and you'll go 20 seconds if you have the ability, you'll go wandering off to some other god or something. He's like, no, we're doing this for a reason. So he's been in the background, and he will answer, but only like if I go to him and talk to him. It's not like where he was in the foreground before. And it's actually good because he wants me to get that relationship with Harv and his brother down. And he's told me before, if I have gods around me or I have spirits around me, it's because Loki approved them. So, and the others will, of course, say the same thing. Like Losanta will see it from her perspective and say, do you think I'd let anybody near you I didn't approve of? So, working with our gods can be like working in a family. And a lot of times today we have a blended family, because I really didn't get to pick my gods. I mean, I've liked gods, had the same experience everyone else has, of liking a god that just did not seem to be all that into me. And I've had experiences where gods come forward and I know it's the god, but other people are telling me no, and I didn't work with them. And they were the world's most patient god or goddess, so I kind of lost that opportunity because they thought, well, she's not serious. And I am a bit of a goofy puffball. So, I remember when the Morganan was about, and it was when I was like first getting into voodoo, and so it was like over a decade ago, and she would be about, and she would be actually shaking his altar and calling my name, and I would be seeing her crows everywhere, and I would be going through all this stuff, and I was working with her for a while, but I always have that block of, what would an Irish war goddess want with me? And she was just, if you've worked with her, she does not have like a count to 100 personality. And the Baron kept trying to tell me, she's here, She's real. It doesn't matter if she's from Ireland or Jupiter, you should be working with her. But the Hugons and Mombos I was working with, they were like, no, 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 you have to get rid of all this, which I will not tell you, profanity. Nonsense. Um, and so I was at this really terrible time where, like, I was so confused. I mean, I had grown up raised Catholic, but always been a witch inside, always seen these spirits, worked with a lot of stuff, and then, like, you kind of get tired, you get burnt out, because you came into Wicca, and what did somebody do? You can't do anything you did before. And then, as you're working with these gods and goddesses, you have people that are, pure pantheist, scream at you that, you can't take just one god from a pantheon, you have to learn everything over again. And you're just burnt out. And by the time I reached Foodon, I was like burnt out and like practically a nervous, shaking wreck. I was ready for a nervous breakdown. Here are these people screaming at me that I have to give up the gods that are my lifeline and just work with Voodoo and Loa. And I went through a royal mess, which, considering, who walks with me, it makes sense. But Loki is the one who will combat that kind of thinking because, look at the stories of the Norse gods. You had all these pantheons come together, and if we look back through pagan history around the world, you'll have sometimes a deity will seem to absorb another deity's powers. Now, we don't know if that's because it was always the same god in the first place, or if, were people forbidden to worship this old god and so the new god took over? What happened? Life is complicated like that. We just don't know. And so Loki's been systematically, like, breaking down any religious rules I ever had ever. He's just been smashing at them with a hammer. I think he got Thor's hammer. He's running around like a loon. And he's destroying everything I ever believed in, which is fun. That is great fun. I've often told him, you make me so happy, and you make my life worth living. And he's like, yeah, I do, don't I? Because he'll come by and he'll just destroy something. I'll be watching, like, a YouTube video and be like, oh, that's so sweet. And he'll, like, lean over my shoulder and go, they're wrong. You know that, don't you? I'll say, you make life so much better. He'll just look at me and smile. But yeah, if he thinks something's nonsense, he'll destroy it. And so he wants everyone in, and he wants everyone in, because he's huge on family. He's huge on, and I can't stress this enough, every relationship he has is personal. So his relationship with me has nothing to do with his relationship with you. If you can hear my voice, your relationship and my relationship are two totally different things. So just because he's, rebuilding the family with me does not mean he doesn't also need to build that family dynamic with you, whatever it would be. And he will destroy the idea that, like, that these gods can't get along, or that you can't get gods from all over, or whatever. And that you can't have gods or the good folk or whoever behave in ways that are totally non-traditional, totally contrary to what they're supposed to do. Because with me, they always seem to run contrary to whatever anything has been said about them. Like, if I work with Loki, he'll make sure he does something total opposite of any book I've ever read or any video I've even done, just to see what I'll do. Just to have a go at me. And, now I have two pukas. They're house pukas. And it's like, here's the ancient lore. You don't live in the house. We're living in the house. And it's not, by the way, I don't want them out of the house. They know very well I want them in the house. It's just like, we can get so caught up in that lore and treat it like a religion. And they're like, no, I think we know what we want, because who's the puka here, you or us? And so I have two of them in the house now, and I have some other ones. As I told one viewer, as I was growing up, I live in the house I grew up in, I'd see this brown blur, and my mother would see it too, and I'd say, what was that? And, it was not a rat or anything. It wasn't a rat or anything in the house. It wasn't one of the cats. She goes, oh, that's a brownie. I'm like, okay. Because my mother was Polish, German, but she was so very into everything Irish, so into everything magical, and I don't know where she got it from, because she certainly didn't have time growing up, and she didn't have My father wouldn't have tolerated that. So I don't know where she got it from. If she got it from reading because she's the one that taught me to love to read, or she got it from classic movies because she's the one that taught me to love AMC back in the day, decades ago, when they played classic movies, not the crap they play now. And I'm gonna get demonetized for that, you watch. But she, she taught me to accept them as real. I mean, look, she was raised in a Catholic, so she taught me to accept guardian angels are real and saints are real. And that if something was real to you, that's all that mattered. Now, as I would grow up and I would still keep having these experiences, she kind of changed tack to please my father and please my father's domineering family. But, it wasn't her fault because they were putting her in a hard place and she didn't want her daughter committed. So, the saying the anythings had to go out the window, and having this imaginary companion had to go out the window. And it was a shame because, I would see things like, I saw a fairy ring in the yard once. I came in, I told her, and she says, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I went out the next day, and sure enough, it was totally gone, like it had never been there. It was a perfect ring, of mushrooms. And I knew enough not to go in, because I didn't know if I'd get back out. And she says, why didn't you tell me? And I said, well, when I was growing up, you yelled at me for that, and you told me to, to grow up and stop believing in that, even though she'd raised me up to a point to believe. And she says, well, I believe in that too. And it made me realize, because my father was gone at that point, how much she'd suppressed her own beliefs to adhere to the beliefs of the people around her. And none of us should live like that, because had she been free to, like, been a witch, for example, she would have made a wonderful witch. And had she been free to work with the fairies and talk about them and everything, she would have been fine. But it was a lot like, one of my favorite movies as a little girl is Harvey. You guys kind of all know that. That's where Harvey got his name. And yes, we appreciate the amusing irony because he is a puka. And I watched that, and I knew everybody around Jimmy Stewart thought he was absolutely insane. Nuts, because, pukas aren't real. And yet, there were enough people that, especially in the bar where he'd go and he'd talk to the people, that if he believed Harvey was real, that was good enough for them. I know people around here that believe in UFOs, believe in Bigfoot and UFOs, believe in anything. And sometimes you can't tell if they're having a go at you or they truly believe this, because they'll get really earnest and then they'll kind of backtrack like, oh, I didn't really mean it. I don't really believe in UFOs or Bigfoot. But it's the kind of area where strange things happen on a daily basis. I mean, people here, is like, if you told them there was a ghost in your house, they'd totally believe you. Or you told them you saw a UFO or Bigfoot, they'd probably believe you. Now, they might laugh at you outwardly because they're afraid of being laughed at themselves, but, it's a strange area, and I don't know what it is about it. It's not an Indian burial ground. As far as we know, the First Nations people that lived in Pennsylvania, we don't even know if they lived this far up, though I've seen things. And we don't know if this was considered sacred, though I've heard it said that part of the name of the larger area translates to Sweetwater, so we don't know. Maybe it was sacred at one time, and maybe that's why everything happens. But to get back to the topic, if we wanted to fit in with everyone else, and people do, we would give those beliefs up. Like, we have quirky beliefs in this area. Like, there's the 3 vampires. And I really have to do research into that. There's 3 vampires, and not like Twilight vampires or something. There's 3 vampire kings that live around here, and like, it's a wonderful area to live in, because in a way, like, anything goes, but then in another way, if you meet the wrong people, that can kind of crush your spirit. And that's kind of, I think, why Harv likes Jimmy Stewart so much. Because you see, especially in Harvey, but you see it in a lot of his films, where even if he does get crushed, even if he does, you know, get his life destroyed, like Miracle on 34th Street, he can find the resilience to come back. And Jimmy Stewart on film, even though I never met the man, seemed pretty much to be Jimmy Stewart in real life. It was like he was Jimmy Stewart. Not that he wasn't a wonderful actor, but that kind-heartedness, that gentleness, though he has played a villain a few times, they were eccentrically what was in the man's heart and in the man's soul. And we kind of have to be like that. We have to be resilient and kind-hearted. And being hard-hearted doesn't help anyone. And we have to, no matter how much our beliefs get knocked down, get back up and know we're going to be okay. Had you told, oh my god, what was his character in It's a Wonderful Life? Had you told him that Clarence wasn't real, he'd have laughed at you. You know? And had you told him in, you know, Harvey, that Harvey wasn't real, he would have laughed at you, because he had this kind of gift in those films of having the miraculous around him and having the wonderful around him. And he might have not believed it at first, but, you know, he came to the point of belief. And then after he came to the point of belief, I don't think he would have really cared what someone said to him. And I know sometimes it can be hard. People will take your beliefs and just laugh at you. Or you get a stalker on your YouTube page or your Tumblr or whatever you do. And, you know, people have to be very immature and petty. But we still have to have our own beliefs. And, you know, go with those. Because we all experience the world in a very different way. So I hope that helps. And that is totally different compared to the first 7 or 8 times I tried this. But oh dear, I've gone on way too long. But if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.